Hey guys! Hey guys, welcome to the Kim Wright YouTube channel. Today's challenge is to talk about the introduction to the dream jars and the kind of plans that I've got for the dream jars. A lot of these plans have been back-to-back plans that have been on the burner for quite a while. Some of them won't have the same impact that it would have had I did it when I thought about it. But they've been on in my notebook to-do list for quite a while. So we'll start off with number one. Which is going to appear on the channel this year. It is the Halloween Dream Jar. This jar has been around since I actually started doing the jars in 2019. The Halloween jar that I want to do is a basic zombies coming out of the ground. And part of the reason it's been delayed for so long is I have had all of the parts that I need for it. It's been getting to the first step that has been the problem. I think because every time I look at it, I think there's so much that I need to do. And by the time I've sat down and gone, okay, I need to do it, it's been too late, or it's been Halloween day. And I've gone to a Halloween party, or I've done something else on that particular day. This year, I hope to motivate myself to do it this year, even if I have to film it early and schedule it for Halloween, which may happen. The Halloween Dream Jar, to give you an idea of the process that I've got to do, I've got all the figure bits that I need for the zombies. I need to paint them and design them so they look like Halloween zombies. I also need to make the gravestones. I need to design the floor. Decide whether I'm going to put the figures on the base first before putting the ground on, or put the ground on, put the figures on, and then put more ground on. It's a complicated procedure. I also need to decide what the backdrop is going to be, which I'm thinking of dark, shadowy trees. But I'm also thinking of a moon, so I need to decide what I'm going to do about that. I also need to decide what kind of impact I want the dream jar to be. Do I want it to be scary or comical? There's so much planning that I do to these jars that a lot of the time they don't get done because I realise how much I have got to do, unfortunately. So number two is something that's quite personal to me and quite personal to a friend as well. She does know that I plan to do this. I didn't do it this year because I wanted to. It was a jar that I thought I need to think very carefully about what I'm doing. So one of my friends suffered a bad tragedy this year. And I said I want to make a jar so she can look at it and remember the happiness of the tragedy, which sounds weird, but I don't want to go into too much detail because I haven't actually got her permission to talk about it, so I'm just going to name it a tragedy. But it's something for her to look at and remind her of the good times to it as well as the bad. She does know that I'm planning on making this. She doesn't know what exactly I'm doing pattern-wise. So it's going to be a huge surprise to both her and me when it's finished. At the moment, I have the majority of the figures that I need for it. I need to design what the jar is going to look like. I need to make something that I'm going to use for the backdrop, which adds as a second purpose. And once I've done that, I can actually get onto the stage of actually repairing and putting the jar together. And when it's finished, I hope she likes it. I'm praying that she likes it. Number three is a jar that's been very difficult for me. I have the figure for it. I have multiple plans on what I'm going to do for the backdrop and the ground level, and that's been where the problem is. I came up with this idea when I did when I thought about doing a Tintin one, because I had a figure of Snowy, and one of my favourite scenes connecting Snowy, and I know this is going to sound awful, is in Tintin and the Crab with the golden claw. It's the scene where they're walking along the streets and Snowy passes a bin bag, and it's how they start the mission off with the fact that Snowy ends up with this tin can stuck in his muzzle. It's also the first Tintin book that I read, so it was the first time I learnt that Snowy has this habit of disappearing into bin bags to find bones, which you can probably imagine Tintin isn't very happy about. I'm not going to go the whole hog and stick a tin can on Snowy's nose, because that's just cruel. But I do want to do the bit of Snowy walking past the bin bag with the bin next to it, because that's the scene that I always remember. Other than him getting the can stuck in his nose, it's the scene that I always think about when I think about Snowy. The scene just says his character in so many ways, and it's something I would love to do, something that's truly amazing. I have Snowy. I have the bin bags, the bin, and I have a lot of the litter that's going to be either in the bin or around the bin at the time. The only thing I don't have is an ideology for the background and the ground. I do want to do a pavement for Snowy, but at the moment I don't know if it's going to be patterned wallpaper that's going to be painted like concrete, or whether it's just going to be the base is painted grey and then the pavement is painted on it. It's every time I get round to actually planning it, I come up with newer ideas. I did play on the idea of having it Lego built, but that's always been a bit iffy for me to do, because one problem that I do have when it comes to the bases is getting them inside the jar. That's always been a huge problem for me. So I hope to be able to solve it at some point. Maybe even figure out what I need to do for it. Because I'd love to be able to have that jar finished and show it off, because it would be so cool to be able to make and do. Number 4 is a multiple of jars, because I have multiple designs for this one particular jar. Mainly because every time I do it, I rethink of a new thing to do, and that is the Easter jars. I have everything I need for the Easter jars. It very similar to the Halloween one. Every single time I think about doing it, something else more or less important comes up around about Easter, and then it just gets abandoned. And it's a habit that I want to get out of this year. Partly because I think the jars are going to look awesome. I think they're going to look absolutely fantastic, and I'd love to be able to finish them off and get them completed. Hopefully I can get that done. Not 100% sure, but I hope to finish it off and get it completed either this year or next year, dependent. Another jar that's been on the back burner, and this one is because I haven't managed to get all of the materials yet. I wish I'd gathered these materials before I started my new job. So this might be partial. So this might be partial build, dependent financially on whether it gets completed this year or next year. And it is a beautiful under the sea version. I have the jar, which is a nice, beautiful blue jar. I have the fish. What I don't have is the ground and backdrop. Or plants. I don't have plants for it either. So that one is about 20% complete, but it's probably going to be another 1 or 2 years, financially dependent on whether I finish that off. I hope to get it finished off, but it is going to take a little bit of time. Hopefully not too long though. This next jar, its impact will be different because I came up with the idea for a competition. Back at the place where I previously worked at, we had a table tennis competition, of which I was co-organising, you could almost describe. And we didn't have enough prizes, so I originally came up with the idea of making this jar, which was a basic table tennis jar, complete with table tennis bats and balls, a table tennis net, probably angled, and not even a backdrop, just having that. Never got round to doing it. I'm gutted that I never got round to doing it, but it's a jar that I need to think about doing. I bought all the bits. I know where they are. I just need to sit down and actually do it. That's something that I need to do this year. Unfortunately, it's unlikely that I'm going to find the guy who I originally planned to give it to. But I have quite a lot of family members, so someone might appreciate it. I don't know yet. So the final jar that I have in mind is a personal one, a big personal one. As a lot of you may have known, my gran passed away before lockdown in March 2020. And it's been, even with the years that have passed, it's been incredibly difficult to get over my gran's death. So I've collected quite a lot of figurines from my gran's house, and I'd quite like to put one of them in a jar. If anything, for me to remember her by, so that I can have something to think about as the years go on. And it'd be quite fun because the figure itself is quite delicate, so it'd be quite nice to put it in something where it's not hopefully going to break, because that will break my heart. So having it in something that's extra protective would probably help it on the long run. It's just going to take its time. And the final jar that I'm thinking about doing is the Christmas jar. Now, you've seen me in the past. I've done Christmas baubles. I did one for a friend of mine. I did 2 jars as a Christmas present for 2 of my friends. And I did a Christmas bauble for myself, which still hangs on my tree, which is pretty cool. So I'd quite like to make a Christmas jar, preferably one that lights up, so that it can hang on my Christmas wall and look absolute brilliance. Be quite nice if I could turn one of my jars into a bauble for the Christmas tree, but I don't know if I've got the skills to do that. That's something that I might do years in the past when I get more practice. But so far, I've got enough on my plates to certainly keep me going throughout it. I have loads of figures where I probably will get inspiration for future jars, but until then, it's touch and go how far along I can get these jars finished. But until then, stay safe, stay well, keep the magic in your fingertips, and I'll see you again next time. Have a fabulous Merry Christmas. I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.